I never relapsed. I'm so grateful I haven't relapsed. And I think just because I full blown went 100% into taking suggestions, knowing that my best thinking got me where I was. And I just did what other people told me to do. I looked at people that had what I wanted. I looked at people that were where I wanted to be in my life. And I just kind of try to do what they did. You know, it's like find some people that are living the life you want to live. Find some people that are doing the things that you want to do. Find the people that are the people that you want to be like and do what they do. Spend more time with them. Surround your, they say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Spend time with people that have what you want and people that are doing the things that you want to do. 5 myths about addiction recovery that are holding you back. Okay, these are the 5 myths. Myth number 1, recovery is a straight line. Myth number 2, you have to hit rock bottom first. Myth number 3, if you relapse, you've lost all progress. Myth number 4, recovery is just about quitting substances. Ooh. Myth number 5, you can do it all alone. So I'm going to go through and talk about these things. So I remember when I first got sober, I didn't know any. I was one of those guys that came into the rooms. I got sober, and I took all the suggestions, and I didn't really know that everybody in recovery wasn't being completely honest. I thought everybody, it's like, oh, this person's in AA. They must be telling the truth. Because when I got sober, I started, to the best of my ability, I was living the principles in all my affairs. I remember I went to my very first 12th, it was an AA meeting. It was the Tuesday night birthday cake meeting. That was the very first meeting that I went to. And somebody gave me a big book. A bunch of guys came up to me because I had to stand up when you're going. If you don't know this, when you go to your first AA or when you go to any AA meeting, typically they're going to ask who the newcomers are, and you know those people in your first 30 days. And that was the first AA meeting I'd ever been to my entire life. It was March 8th, 2011. And I got up and I said, my name's Tim, I'm an alcoholic. And that was like the first time and I cried. Oh my gosh, I cried. I was like, oh, why am I here? I couldn't believe it. I mean, I thought my life was over. And at that specific meeting, they bring they bring the newcomers up to the front of the room to the podium. So they called me to come up to the front of the room. And I remember I got up there and there were probably 25, 30 people at the meeting. It was a men's meeting. And I cried. I talked about what happened over the weekend, which, long story short, I had a buddy come into town, bunch of shenanigans. My wife at the time found out about the shenanigans. She wasn't happy. She left me. And I kind of told the story of what happened. And I cried and everybody laughed. And I cried some more and everybody laughed. So I cried, they laughed, which they were laughing because they could relate, because many of them had been exactly where I was. I mean, it's the stuff I did was just stuff that someone does when he's in his alcoholism and his drug addiction. Just like I was an idiot. So going back to what I was talking about, recovery being in a straight line. So I remember just thinking that everybody, I got a sponsor. My second meeting I went to was a Prince of Peace meeting, and I got a sponsor. I started meeting with my sponsor on a weekly basis. I started working the steps. Prior to getting sober, I became an atheist. I grew up Christian, and then once I went to college, I remember I went to UC Davis. I grew up in a Christian household, and I went to church camp and stuff like that. And then when I went to college, I went to UC Davis. There's all of these people and all of these different religions, and everybody thinks everybody else is going to hell. And that was a way for me just to justify why there was not, I didn't believe in God. I became an atheist. Tim's going to do what Tim wants to do. Work hard, play hard. If it's going to happen, I'm going to make it happen. And there was no God, there was no higher power, there was no universe making things happen. It was Tim making things happen. And that was what I believed. So getting into recovery, working the steps, living the principles in all my affairs, doing the next right thing. The lying, cheating, and the stealing was out of control. That's alcoholism. Alcoholism isn't necessarily drinking. Drug addiction isn't necessarily drink. I mean, we drink and we drug because of our behavior, because of the trauma, because of the things that we've gone through in our lives. And I just decided to live an honest life. The lying, cheating, and stealing was how I lived my life prior to getting sober. And so doing the next right thing really just made me feel better about myself. And I was able to not have all this guilt and shame. I mean, I had a lot of guilt and shame because of all my behavior prior to getting sober, which once I got to the 9th step amends, I mean, first you go through the 4th step and you go through and you do your inventory, and then the 9th step where you make your 9th step amends. And I went through and I dug deep when I did my steps. And so I followed suggestions, knowing that my best thinking got me where I was at that time. And my best thinking wasn't going to get me to a better place. So I knew that I had to take suggestions from other people. And that really, really helped me. That helped me become a better man, become a better person. And I pretty quickly became very, I felt really good about my behavior, and I felt good about the man that I was becoming and the man that I was. And still to this day, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for my life. I'm grateful for where I am and how I got here. So let's go into myth number 1. Recovery is a straight line. So relapse was not part of my journey. However, relapse is part of most people's journey. And I remember there's Brandon Lee. He talks about he relapsed after 11 years. And 11 years, he was going to 12-step meetings. He was he was working a 12-step program. He was doing the deal. And he relapsed after 11 years. And then in his opinion, this is how he talks about it, if I'm remembering correctly, is that he goes back out, or he goes back to the rooms, and he's got to start over with a new sobriety date. And now he's a newcomer. And that didn't help him. And so for him, he doesn't tell people what his sobriety date is. What he says is that I've been in recovery since. And I kind of like framing it that way. I mean, that's just my opinion. And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that won't agree with me. I really like that approach because I've seen there's lots of people that relapse many, 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 many times. There's lots of people that go to treatment 3, 4, 5, 10 times, 14 times, 15 times. There's people that have been going to treatment for so long. It doesn't mean that every time they relapse, they're starting over from zero. Again, that's my opinion, because they've already learned. And I've seen this happen to people. It's like it happened to a friend of mine. His family sent him to rehab, and he got out of rehab. He relapsed pretty quickly, like within a couple of weeks. And I remember one of his family members going, "Oh man, that was a waste of money. That was a waste of 30 grand." And I'm like, hey, it's not a waste of 30 grand. It's not a waste, because he's farther along today than he was before he went to treatment. He started digging into that, digging deep and figuring out what's underneath it, why he needs the solution, what's the pain coming from. And so most people relapse. You don't have to relapse. People don't have to relapse. Most people do. And relapse is part of the journey for a lot of people, most people. For me, I never relapsed. I'm so grateful I haven't relapsed. And I think just because I full blown went 100% into taking suggestions, knowing that my best thinking got me where I was. And I just did what other people told me to do. I looked at people that had what I wanted. I looked at people that were where I wanted to be in my life. And I just kind of try to do what they did. You know, it's like, find some people that are living the life you want to live. Find some people that are doing the things that you want to do. Find the people that are the people that you want to be like, and do what they do. Spend more time with them. Surround they say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Spend time with people that have what you want and people that are doing the things that you want to do. Now, one of the things that I realized, and I know, is that when I first got sober, they say stick with the winners. And when I first got sober, the winners did not want to have anything to do with me. So it's hard to spend the majority of my time with people that have what I want because I didn't have what I wanted. And why would they want to spend time with somebody like me who doesn't have what they want? And so it's kind of it's almost like a slow process of continuing to build my community and continue spending more time with people that I want to be like. There's a guy named Andrew Murdoch that I sat down with not long ago. And he talks about YouTube being such an amazing resource. So that guy on YouTube or that gal on YouTube, they might have what you want. So YouTube is a free resource. Podcasts are free resources. So that's a way to spend more time with people that have what you want and spend more time listening to people that have what you want. It's an easy way. It's free. And that has helped me over the years elevate and become a different person. So recovery is definitely not a straight line. Okay, myth number 2, you have to hit rock bottom first. I would say, I'd say yes and no. I'd say that we all have many rock bottoms. I've had many rock bottoms. April 19th, 1996, I was in a major car accident. I fell asleep driving. I was wasted. I fell asleep driving. My car flipped over 3 times. I ended up on the other side of the freeway, curled up in a little ball in what used to be the driver's seat of my Toyota pickup. I was flown Lifeline over to San Jose Medical Center. I was in ICU for 4 days. Then I was flown down to St. John's in Oxnard, 24-hour care for 28 days, transitional living center for brain injured adults for 6 weeks, disability classes at Ventura College for 6 weeks. Dr. Judy, my doctor at the time, said, Tim is never going to go back to UC Davis. And he was wrong. I did recover, and I did go back to UC Davis, but I didn't stop drinking. Instead, I started doing cocaine so I could drink longer and harder. And that was I would almost say that was probably that was my rock bottom. I drank for 15 more years. So it's like there's a lot of times a good friend of mine, I'll call him Jack. His name's not Jack, but I'll call him Jack. Jack had a major thing. He basically had like some kind of a heart attack. I don't remember exactly what happened, but he had this defibrillator that he had to wear. And he was gonna, they said the same thing to him. Like, if he ever drinks again, he's gonna die. And I remember talking to his family, and his family's like, I think he's good now. I don't think he needs to go to treatment because, if this doesn't cure him, nothing will. And I'm like, and I shared my story with him. I'm like, that's not true. If he's an alcoholic, he's going to drink. And I think we all know he's an alcoholic. Like, he is going to drink. And sending him to treatment is probably the best thing that you can do. Do you want to save his life? Send him to treatment, in my opinion. And here we are, we're a couple years later, and he's still sober today, which is amazing. I've seen people go through and have the biggest catastrophes and some pretty dark, deep rock bottoms and come back and start drinking. And it's just because someone hits a bottom doesn't mean that they're going to be, it's like we have lots of bottoms. Now, for me, the rock bottom or the bottom that got me sober was when my now ex-wife at the time, she left me. He said, I'm leaving you. And the only way I will consider taking you back is if you never drink again, go to rehab, and you stop playing golf. And the golf thing is kind of, I was like, oh. So that was what got me sober. I've had other times in my life, I've gotten fired from major, I remember I got fired from this job that I had it started in college. It was Student Works Painting. I ran this, I was a general manager of this company, and that was my life. I mean, I was a workaholic, drug addict, alcoholic, and my whole life was consumed with drinking and doing drugs and working. And that was ripped away from me. And then I moved on to another company, and I started the Northern California division of this other company, and again, fired due to my drinking and drug use. Again, drug addiction, workaholism, my whole life, all of my friends, everything was part of my work. That was my identity, and that was all ripped away from me. And of course, I was a victim. It was not me. I shouldn't have got fired, and I just wasn't ready. I've had some pretty dark rock bottoms, and I would say that the bottom that got me sober wasn't my deepest rock bottom. So there's lots of rock bottoms, and there's there's a guy named Ken Seeley. He talks about bringing the bottom up. So bringing the bottom up, so bringing the rock bottom up. So what that means is that when somebody, like let's say really a loved one can bring the bottom up. And this is when interventions work. Interventions do work. I've seen interventions work. Interventions do work. They work very well, even when people think they're not going to work. If you work with an experienced interventionist and you strategize and the family gets involved, and the family also has to realize that they're part of the problem, and they're always part of the problem, like pretty much 100% of the time, even though they don't really like to hear that. The family's always part of the problem. But the family coming together and bringing the bottom up. And what does bringing the bottom up look like? It means, little Johnny, if you don't stop drinking, if you don't stop doing, or actually, little Johnny, if you don't go to rehab, you're cut off. And what does that mean? No money, you can't come home, we're not going to help you in any, like, we're not here from you. We're gone. And that's dad, mom, brother, sister, cousin, best friends, everybody cuts Johnny off. And that's how you bring the bottom up. Because now if Johnny's still allowed to come home, if you're still going to give Johnny money, if you're still going to help Johnny out and he's still drinking and using, he's going to continue drinking and using. You think you might be helping him, but you're not helping him. So working with an interventionist, I found, is the best way to bring the bottom up. That's enough about myth number 2. Let's talk about myth number 3. If you relapse, you've lost all progress. I already kind of talked about this. When you relapse, again, like Brandon Lee talks about this, and he openly talks about this too. You can look him up. He has a YouTube channel. And he owns Art of Our Soul, which is, it's a art therapy, essentially. It's not just your standard art therapy. It's actually really awesome what he does. He talks about his relapse, again, like I talked about earlier. And when you relapse, you don't lose everything. And I've seen people think that they got to start over. My name's Tim. I'm alcoholic. I'm on day 1. Give me a 24-hour chip. Give me a 30-day chip. Give me a 60-day chip. It's very humbling to go through and get those chips. But it doesn't mean, from the standpoint of progress in recovery, it's just like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I wouldn't say it's 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. I'd say it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Recovery is not a straight line, and relapse is part of the journey for most people. Myth number 4, recovery is just about quitting substances. Ooh, definitely not. And I've seen this And there are a lot of, I mean, the truth is it's about rebuilding life skills, rebuilding relationships, mental health, spirituality. Everything has to change. When someone gets sober, when I got clean and sober, everything had to change. That means new eating habits, new sleeping habits, new exercise habits. I pray and meditate. I do gratitude lists. I surround myself with people that have what I want. New hobbies, new interests. Everything had to change. The lying, cheating, and the stealing, specifically for me, the lying, cheating, and the stealing had to stop. And there are other behaviors, which I would say are alcoholic behaviors. For example, if someone is married and they're cheating on their wife and they're on a website called Sleeping Arrangements or sugardaddy.com or something like that, in my opinion, that's the same thing as drinking or doing drugs. I mean, there's the dopamine hit and there's the adrenaline that goes along with it. And that's the solution to a pain. I mean, that's a solution to pain. So it's that type of behavior. Anything can be addictive. And why are you binge watching TikTok? Why are you sleeping with hookers? Why are you cheating on your wife? Or why are you cheating on your girlfriend? Or why are you lying about this? Or why are you not being honest? I mean, the lying, cheating, and the stealing, I mean, that's the stuff that, ugh. I mean, if I'm not living clean, I live pretty clean. I live pretty clean because I want to feel good. And that's recovery. Living the principles in all my affairs, doing the next right thing, helping another person. I'm not a victim. I'm responsible. I am where I am today because of my behaviors. And if I've got some debts to pay, then I created those debts. Like, I am where I am today because of my behavior, because of my actions, because of my choices. And I make much better choices today. I make bad choices too, sometimes. My choices, for the most part, are pretty good. Pause when agitated or doubtful. That really helps me. Because a lot of times I want to say things or I want to do things that aren't going to be good, and I play the tape forward and I realize, like, oh no, like I don't want to have to make an amends. I don't want to have to clean that up. And that helps me stay on the path. Recovery is living life differently. Once I became the man that I was proud to be, and it didn't happen overnight, then that's recovery. I remember, you attract what you are. I remember when I first got sober, I didn't date for about a year. I didn't date for that first year, which is suggested because getting into a new relationship while I was still sick, newly in recovery. I see this happen all the time. That, people are newly in recovery and they meet somebody, they think they're going to get married. It's like, why would I want to get into a relationship? I'm not who I want to be with. I wouldn't want to be with me. So why would I want to get into a relationship? Because you attract what you are. The first woman that I met, that I started dating, that became my girlfriend, she was a little crazy. And then, or she kind of maybe a lot crazy. And she liked to drink, and she liked to, she liked to do some things that that were not good for me, that I didn't agree with. But of course I was okay with that because I don't know, I didn't have the courage to get out of that relationship or whatever. And then the next woman I dated was a little less crazy. And then by the time I was 5 years sober, I remember I started dating a girl, and I remember thinking, okay, like, I'm doing pretty good. And it's like, this is what I attract. If this is what I attract, I'm doing pretty good. And they say, I remember when I celebrated 5 years of recovery, people say, congratulations, you're no longer a newcomer. I was like, what? In my mind, I'm thinking I've been sober for a long time. I'm like an old timer. And no, that's not the case. At 5 years, you're no longer a newcomer. And that's my experiences. That was true. I mean, once I hit 5 years of recovery, I was doing pretty good. And I was attracting much different people into my life. I wasn't crazy. And I was, life was good. Life was much better. Okay, myth number 5: you can do it all alone. This never works in my experience, and I see people that just they don't want to share that they're in recovery. So the people, so for me, I'll just use myself as an example. When I got sober, I pretty much told everybody. Actually, I didn't, except for the people that I worked closely with. I didn't tell the people that I worked closely with. I owned a real estate company. I was a real estate broker. I had a vacation rental management company. Small team. I didn't tell anybody that I worked with that I was in recovery for a while. Probably at least 6 months, maybe longer, before I actually shared with a couple of the people that were in my office that I was in recovery. I needed to go to, and I was also one of those guys that before I got sober, I remember about a year before I got sober, my wife at the time said, let's go to marriage counseling. And we went and we saw Gene Collins. Gene Collins had an office in Arcadia. And I thought we were going there for marriage counseling. So we go marriage counseling, and then we start talking, and Gene starts asking me about my drinking. And I'm like, why are we talking about my drinking? Like, that's not what this is about. She said, well, do you think you have a problem? And I was like, no, absolutely not. I don't have a problem. I just like to drink. She said, well, can you stop for 90 days? And I was like, sure, no problem. So I stopped drinking for 90 days. I mean, hindsight being 20/20, I remember I got a hold of some, alcohol's little helpers, like Vicodin and Norco and Lortab. So I was taking pills instead of drinking, but I was like, oh, I'm not drinking. And then I started drinking again. And then within the year, or about a year later, was when my ex-wife left me. Okay, so where was I going with that story? So I really wasn't sober. Like, not only was I utilizing alcohol's little helpers, but I was also, my behavior was not cleaned up at all. And I remember Gene going, well, maybe you can go ahead and AA meeting. I was like, no, I don't need that. I'm not that bad. And I hear that from people all the time. AA is a way, like that's how I built my foundation. And that was the best thing I ever did, was go to AA. And because you can't stopping drinking is not easy. Stopping drinking and drugs is really hard to do. And so surrounding yourself in an environment, there's a guy named Ben Hardy who wrote a book called Willpower Doesn't Work. So the environment always wins. If I'm in an environment around people that are not drinking, around people that are supporting not drinking, around people that are promoting living a better life without alcohol, because before I got sober, I thought my whole life revolved around drinking and doing drugs. So if I'm going to a concert, I'm going to drink. If I'm going to a football game, I'm going to drink. If I'm going to a wedding, if I'm going to a Memorial Day party, a Labor Day party, July 4th, St. Patty's Day, if I'm going out to dinner, like whatever, if I'm going to dance, guess what? I need to have a few drinks. Everything I did revolved around drinking and doing drugs. So environment always wins. Willpower doesn't work. It doesn't matter how set or how committed I am to not drinking. If I'm spending my time around people that are drinking, and it doesn't mean like today, I see people drink all the time, and it doesn't bother me at all. I'm not a huge fan when people start getting wasted. I mean, I was just on a trip in Costa Rica, and a friend of mine, he likes to have a drink or two, and he doesn't get sloppy wasted. I don't even think I saw him buzzed one single time, and I was with him for 12 days, and he had a cocktail or two cocktails almost every day. I don't have the desire to drink or drug. I don't really like being in environments where people are wasted. if I go out and if I'm around people that are super wasted, like I'm like, yeah, okay, it's time for me to go. It's just not fun for me. I don't have the desire to drink. I mean, I guess I would say more than anything, if people are wasted, I look at them, I'm like, oh God, thank God that's not me. Or that used to be me, or that could be me. And so that helps me. I like to spend my time with people that live the life that I like to live. And again, the friend that I spent time with in Costa Rica, he wasn't the only one there. There were a lot of people there, but he was the one that facilitated the retreat. He's not an alcoholic or a drug addict. I mean, he has like 1 or 2 drinks, and he was never wasted, and he's still cycling. He's super strong. He's very fit, and he likes to have a drink or two, and that's okay. It's not okay for me to have a drink or two. I couldn't just have a drink or two. It would be like a drink or 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 6, and then next thing you know, I'm like feeling like shit, and I'm hungover, and I'm back to rehab. So I'm not going to drink. I know that I can't drink. He's what they call a normie, and that's okay. But I know that if I'm spending my time around people that are drinking all the time, eventually I'm probably going to cave. And maybe not. I don't know. I'm not willing to try it, but environment always wins. I mean, that's why they say you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. If I'm spending my time with people that drink all the time, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in 6 months, but maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years, maybe in 3 years, I'm going to become weak and I'm going to drink. So when I hear people say they want to continue being friends with the friends that they used to drink and use with, it's probably not a good idea. At least it's not a good idea right now. And you can leave it at that. I've got lots of friends that I drank and used with that I'm still friends with. I mean, I've got my best man. He was a guy that we used to drink and get into trouble together. And he still drinks. He lives a good life and is successful. He's married. He has 2 kids, and I see him. He lives in the Bay Area, so I don't see him very often. But I'm still good friends. I would still consider him a good friend, and he's, what I would say. I don't know. Maybe he's not a normie, but I'm not. It's not me to judge whether or not somebody's a normie or not a normie. I remember when I first got sober, I would like point at people like, oh, he should be sober. She should be sober. He's an alcoholic. He's a drug addict. And it's not my place to tell a person that he or she should get sober. I'm not referring to family members. Family members, it's kind of a little bit different. Anyways, so community, professional support, like those are all the things. You can't do it alone. That means community support through AA, other communities, other sober communities, therapy, treatment, yoga retreats, meditation retreats. I mean, there's lots of different communities and events. And even like the things that I do today, I'm a part of so many different communities, and drinking and drugs is not the main activity. And that's what really helps me. And I would say that, gosh, on this cycling retreat that I just went on, there were 5 of us. 3 of the 5 people were in recovery, long-term recovery. 1 sober, I think, over 20 years, and 1 sober coming up on 15 years, and I'm coming up on 15 years too. So lots of sobriety. And that's kind of what I find these days is I end up around people, whatever I'm doing, I always end up around people that don't drink or people that are in recovery. And it's a good feeling. I like it. So I'm wondering, I've got a closing challenge here. Is there a myth that you believed to be true that maybe might not be true? Share that in the comments below. there's a myth that you think might be true, but maybe it's not true. Share that myth or that supposed myth or that potential myth in the comments below. And I will see you on the next video.